Verse 1. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Explanation. Jesus begins by warning against judging others. He teaches that judgment should be left to God, as we are all imperfect and subject to the same judgment. Before moving forward, do subscribe to my channel. Verse 2. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Explanation. The way we treat others will be how we are treated in return. It reminds us to be merciful and understanding in our dealings with others. Verse 3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Explanation. Jesus uses a metaphor to illustrate hypocrisy. We often focus on others' minor faults while ignoring our own major issues. Verse 4. How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? Explanation. Jesus highlights the absurdity of judging others when we have greater issues in our own lives. Self-awareness is key. Verse 5. You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Explanation. Before criticizing or correcting others, we must first address our own flaws. Only then can we offer meaningful help to others. Verse 6. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Explanation. Jesus warns against giving valuable teachings or wisdom to those who are unwilling to appreciate or respect them. Sometimes it is better not to share wisdom with those who will not understand or value it. Verse 7. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. Explanation. Jesus assures us that God is generous in answering our prayers. If we seek God with sincere hearts, He will respond and provide. Verse 8. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Explanation. Jesus emphasizes that God is always willing to answer our prayers, though it may not always be in the way we expect or want. Verse 9. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Explanation. Jesus uses a simple analogy to show that God, like a good parent, will give us what is best for us, not something harmful. Verse 10. Or if he asks for a fish, we'll give him a snake. Explanation. Again, Jesus illustrates that God gives good gifts, just as a loving parent would never give harmful things to their children. Verse 11. If you, then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? Explanation. Even though humans are flawed, we still give good things to our children. How much more will God, who is perfect, give good things to his children? Verse 12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Explanation. This is the golden rule. Jesus teaches that we should treat others as we want to be treated. This principle fulfills the essence of the entire law. Verse 13. Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. Explanation. Jesus speaks of two paths, one that is narrow and difficult but leads to life, and the other that is wide and easy, leading to destruction. We are encouraged to choose the narrow path, which represents living according to God's will. Verse 14. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Explanation. The path to eternal life is not easy and requires effort and commitment to following Jesus. Few will choose this difficult but rewarding path. Verse 15. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. Explanation. Jesus warns about false teachers who may appear harmless but have harmful intentions. They deceive people and lead them astray. Verse 16. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Explanation. The true nature of false prophets is revealed through their actions and teachings. Good fruit, good deeds comes from good trees, true disciples, and bad fruit comes from bad trees, false teachers. Verse 17, likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. Explanation: a person's character and actions reveal their true nature. A righteous person produces good deeds, while a deceitful or corrupt person produces bad deeds. Verse 18, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Explanation: this reinforces that a person's actions reflect their heart. True faith leads to good deeds, and false faith leads to bad deeds. Verse 19, every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Explanation: those who do not live according to God's will face judgment. This represents the fate of those who do not produce the fruit of righteousness. Verse 20, thus, by their fruit you will recognize them. Explanation: once again, Jesus emphasizes that we should be discerning and recognize people by the evidence of their lives, not just their words. Verse 21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Explanation: Jesus warns that simply claiming to follow him is not enough. True discipleship is evidenced by obedience to God's will. Verse 22, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Explanation: some will try to justify their actions with past religious achievements, but Jesus makes it clear that outward acts do not guarantee entrance into the kingdom. Verse 23, then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Explanation: Jesus reveals that a personal relationship with him is essential. Those who do not truly know him, despite their outward actions, will be rejected. Verse 24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Explanation: Jesus compares those who follow his teachings to wise builders who create a strong foundation. Obeying Jesus' words builds a solid, unshakable life. Verse 25, the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. Explanation: life's challenges and difficulties will come, but those who follow Jesus' teachings will remain steadfast as their lives are built on the firm foundation of his truth. Verse 26. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. Explanation: those who ignore Jesus' teachings are like foolish builders who construct their lives on unstable foundations. Their lives will crumble under pressure. Verse 27, the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. Explanation: a life not built on Jesus' teachings will collapse when faced with challenges. Without a solid foundation, it is vulnerable. Verse 28. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching. Explanation: the crowds were struck by the authority and depth of Jesus' teachings, which were different from the traditional teachings of their time. Verse 29. Because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. Explanation: Jesus' teachings carried a unique and powerful authority, unlike the religious leaders of the time, whose teachings were more based on tradition and interpretation. Now let me tell you how we can use these verses in our daily life. Before criticizing someone, take a moment to examine your own behavior. Practice empathy and try to understand others' perspectives. Cultivate a habit of self-reflection and personal growth. Avoid gossip and speaking ill of other people. Develop a consistent prayer life, bringing your needs and desires to God. Maintain faith and trust that God hears and answers prayers, even if the answer is not what you expect. Actively seek out wisdom and guidance in your daily decisions. Practice kindness, compassion, and respect in all your interactions. Consider how your words and actions affect others. Extend forgiveness and grace to those who have wronged you. Actively look for ways to help other people. Develop critical thinking skills to evaluate information and claims. Pay attention to the actions and character of those you trust. Be mindful of the people you surround yourself with. Regularly study and meditate on the Bible. Apply Jesus' teachings to your daily decisions and actions. Strive to live a life of obedience.